The road to happiness is never a short one. And what I mean by that, things take time. In a world where everything is instant, coffee, TV, social media, learn to enjoy the process and the journey, because when you hit the destination, the next day you'll forget about it. Anyway guys, we are back today with another video. Today is an installation guide on the Motogadget Motoscope Mini, and that is where we are with the wiring. It is literally the last thing we need to do. Well, I said the last thing. It is literally the last thing we have got to do before we can get the wiring all finished off and wrapped up, apart from the rear taillight and indicators. But we'll be on those on another video, just because it's really simple and it doesn't interfere with any of the other wiring harness we've done. But anyway, roll the intro and let's get straight into the video. Right, so guys, as you saw in previous videos, we've got our bracket sorted for the Motoscope Mini. Everything is all good to go. All we need to do now is actually wire it into the harness. Now, some of you may think this is actually a quite difficult thing to do. When you follow the instructions, it's not that bad. Depending on your application, there's a few things that you'll need to make, a few things that you'll need to kind of get your head around. Once you've got yourself in that mind frame, it's actually not that hard. So what we're going to do first is go through all the wiring and show you which wire does what. Right, so I have stripped back the plastic coating that covers all the wires, and I want to work it into my loom, so I've kind of cut it to the right length, and we'll go through individually which wire does what. Now there's a piece of string in there which isn't wiring. The red wire, that is the power wire, as you kind of expect. Black wire, earth. It's these three wires here that gets a little bit interesting. The green, the white and the yellow. Now the yellow is going to be your tachometer, and that needs to be wired into the ignition system. We'll come to that a bit later on, but for now, you know what that one's for. The white wire, this is your speedo wire. Again, we'll come back to that later on in the video and we'll show you what I'm going to be doing with that to make it work. Last but not least, the green wire. This is basically what controls your speedo. Now this goes to a little button. You can either connect it to your handlebars or put it somewhere else. Personally, I've put the button down here. Now the reason I put it there is just because I didn't think about it when I was actually doing the handlebars. So I should have had an extra button on the handlebars, but hindsight and all that, I didn't. But anyway, that's not a problem. When the tank is on, I can still access this button here. It's not in a difficult place to reach, and it means when I'm riding out on a ride, all I've got to do is reach down and push that button. I probably won't be doing it while I'm riding, but it is just there just to change a few settings while you're out on your ride and stuff. So for me, that is fine. And that's basically it. And as I always say, if I can do it, you can do it too. So yeah, let's get this wired in. So before we go any further, I want to talk to you about the speedo sensor. This little thing right here, this is the sensor. It's a magnetic setup. I don't know exactly what it's called, but basically you put a magnet somewhere on the wheel and you have to have this, and you have to have this at a certain distance to it. So every time the wheel does a revolution, it picks up a signal from the magnet, and that's basically the simple terms for it. Anyway, mounting this thing, this is where things get a bit interesting. I've had to come up with some kind of solution on how to make this work. And I'll go through with you now what exactly I have done. So I've been looking at the bike, deciding whether to put it on the rear or the front, and I've decided I'd like to put it on the front. Now, mounting this thing, I've worked out the best place for me to do it is mount it off this bolt right here. So what we've got here is a cardboard template bracket, very, very basic, and this right here is the mounting off the brake bolt. And the way it works is basically mounts on there and dips in and goes here to this magnet that you can see right here. So once you've put that on, it sits in and just sits like that. I do have to epoxy this magnet into place, but we'll do that later on. But for now, I just like to get this bracket made and just to see if it works. Right, so what I have done is made a quick one out of metal. Now steel is not ideal, remember that, just because it's a magnetic system, and anything that's magnetic will interfere. So they suggest don't use any magnetized metals, as in steel. Aluminium is fine. I don't have any aluminium here, so I've got to think outside the box. And this is where my 3D printer comes involved. So while I'm here busy making these videos, the printer's been in the background churning away this little beauty. This is still technically a prototype version because I've used a PLA plastic, which is a little bit brittle, but I've used 100% infill and I've gone for super fine quality just to give it that bit of strength to it, just to make sure this thing works. Now the dimensions have changed ever so slightly, but that doesn't matter, it still works perfectly. And yeah, let's get this put on and show you exactly how it works. Is it the most factory looking option? No. Is it the neatest option? Probably not. Is it the most simplest and straightforward way that anyone can probably do? Yeah. That's why I've done it, just because anyone can do this method. But it works, it's simple, and all we've got to do now is get this wired in. So we're going to get all the earth sorted, we're going to get all the wiring side of things sorted, and I'll talk you through exactly what I've done. Right, this might be hard to see considering I've got an exposed loom, but just to put it simply, this wire here, these are the two wires coming from the speed sensor. One is going into an earth and the other is going into the white wire. And this double wire here, this is the button. One earth, one going into the green wire. Now, what I've done is I've daisy chained all the earths into one that goes all the way down the loom and into a main earth. So that leaves us with this single yellow wire. This yellow wire is probably the most important one to get right out of all the wiring because you risk damaging your Motoscope Mini. And basically this is the rev signal input. So what you need to do is wire this directly into the ignition system, and you have to make sure you get the right wire for your bike, for your build. In my case, it's this orange wire right here, but check your wiring diagrams on your bikes and make sure you know exactly which one it's going into. You do not want to put it into a direct main power supply because that's where you can do damage. So in my manual it says the orange wire is where the original rev gauge goes to, so I know for sure that's going to work. I know for sure that's going to be as it needs to be. So let's get that done, get it tested and see how it looks. Right, we've got it all wired in. I have had to make one change. At the start of the video I wired in this here, this is the fuse, and in the instructions it says wire into a 12-volt source, so I thought I'll just wire it in here into this and it'd be nice and safe and everything, but that's not the case. The power comes on instantly, so that's not a good thing. So what I've done, I've just wired it into the aux on the Motogadget, so when we turn the bike on, when we start it up, the gauge comes on. It's only a minor detail, but it's something to take into consideration when you're wiring in this. Luckily, I have none of the loom wrapped up or anything yet, which makes things 10 times easier doing it at this point. But yeah, let's get it turned on and see how it looks. Oh, look at that. If we toggle through the options with the button, trip, odometer, RPM, time, speed. Now unfortunately I don't have any tank or any fuel here to get this bike started to see it actually working with the revs and everything. And there are also many other features and things that you can go into with this, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to say this has worked and I can now actually finally get the majority of the wiring finished. All we've got now is the tail section, as I spoke about, which I still need to make the acrylic tail light piece So I'll be working on that very soon. I'm super excited that we've got this sorted. So any comments, let me know down below in the comments. Anything that you want to know about this, let me know. As a wise man once said, the last 10% takes 90% of the time. And I feel like with this bike, that is 100% the case. So if you want early access to the videos and more information, Patreon down below. And as always, I shall see you in the next video. Peace.